Welcome back to Cause 3D, and today I have a very special guest and a very special project that I've been looking forward to doing. So I'd like to introduce you to Em. She came in to a Comic-Con several years ago that we were at, and we've developed a good friendship over the last 2 years, I would say, and we are gonna hit a project today, and we're gonna build a tech helmet together. So let's get into this build. Thank you so much for supporting our channel. Make sure that you hit that like button down below, subscribe, leave a comment, because it's those things that help support this channel for free and let us do more content for you. So today we're gonna build a tech helmet, and this is going to be a very fun build. And Em, why? Why tech? Of all the Bad Batch and everything else, why tech?
He's my favorite. He's really smart, and I feel like they would be dead without him probably pretty early on, so I like him.
Absolutely, I get that. I totally get that. No, he's a great character that they've developed and would be a fun one to cosplay in. So we're gonna build this potentially for cosplay, but also
just for display also, just so I can show it off.
Yes, absolutely. So it's going to be a fun build, and we're going to now switch cameras. We're going to get over and start the sanding process. And the whole point of this video, most important thing we're going to do is, I do these all the time, so I kind of gloss over some stuff. So today, while we're running the cameras, we're going to chop this up a little bit so we don't bore you too much. But we're going to run over probably some finer details and some finer points that I take for granted that I just know what to do. And today, Em's coming in on a totally cold build on this. She's built a couple other helmets, but we're gonna take this one up to fantastic display quality. So that's what the key is today. And as we're going along, I may do some voiceover, and I may also do some camera stopping, and we'll explain why we're doing some of the things that we do to get this up to showpiece quality. So let's get over to the sanding station and let's get moving on this. All right, so we've got Tech disassembled and we've got him out on the table here, and the first thing we're gonna do is the simplest thing that we're gonna do all day. And that is, we're gonna hit it really quickly with an 80 grit sandpaper. And we look at these parts sometimes and we think, well, they're not really that bad, but there's still layer lines in them when you start putting paint on them. So we want to sand everything top to bottom. And the reason that we're gonna start with the 80 grit random orbit sander is because this is gonna take off a lot of material really fast. So we don't wanna bear down on it. We wanna just let the sander glide over the top of it. And this is just a first pass. We are not trying to make it smooth with this. We're just trying to rough up the plastic so that when we go to a higher grit, it turns it into a much smoother project. So I'm gonna start, it's gonna get loud.
Okay.
And I'm gonna start, and we're just gonna hit the top of this helmet real quick, and then I'm gonna set you loose on some pieces.
Okay, sounds good.
So this is a good time to point out, so we have a seam line right here from where the printer stops and starts and extrudes a little bit more material than where it usually is. So this is an area that we're going to focus on right now with the 80 grit. As you can see, as we're sanding, we're not getting it, if you get the light right, we're not getting it perfectly smooth yet. So we're just trying to hit these high spots, and I'm going to focus on this line real quick. Actually, I'm going to let you focus on this line.
Okay.
So you don't have to be in a hurry, and you want to use kind of the area in the front of the pad as you're going. So make sure that you don't over sand into an area like a corner or something like that, or into this area here, but just focus on this area. And as you sand, it's going to heat up the plastic.
Okay.
So we don't want to just constant. And I'll just give you a hand signal for a second. We'll stop, we'll feel it, make sure it doesn't get too hot.
Okay.
Doing good. I'm going to help you here. Okay. Keep your hand on there. We're going to rock it kind of back and forth and just move it around. There you go. A lot of people are intimidated to start sanding with the random orbit sander, or any sander for that matter. And if you take your time and you go slow and you don't stay in the same spot for very long, it's actually a really simple process.
Gotcha.
So I'm going to hit this in a couple. I missed a spot here. And then I'm going to have you do some hand sanding on the front. And then while you're doing the hand sanding on the front, I'm going to get these. These are going to be a little more tricky just because of the contours. I'm going to need some sander control on them. So let me hit this and then we'll move on to some hand sanding.
Sounds good.
All right, so we've hit it with our 80 grit, and now we're gonna I'm gonna have you do some, we're gonna go back and finish the dome here in a minute, but while we're in this process of the initial sand, we're gonna grab some, I'm gonna say about some 220 grit sandpaper, and I'm just gonna have you knock off any odd pieces that we have that are just artifacts of the supports or the printing. So let's get some sandpaper and get cracking.
Sounds good.
All right, so you're gonna start with some 120. I said 220, I meant 120. And what I really want you to focus on is just mainly in these areas, this is front mask part. Don't worry yet about this stuff down here. We're gonna do that kind of towards the end. The best thing to do is always go against the layer lines are running this way, and we wanna sand as best you can this direction so that you're knocking them down. All right, so while you're finishing that up, I am gonna finish up these parts now. I'm gonna move to a 220 grit random orbit sander. And this is where we really start smoothing out some stuff. But as you can see, I didn't sand this down like crazy. You know, we wanna just knock off all the high spots. There's still some valleys in there that haven't been touched. But we're gonna address that more with this. And then we're gonna do a glazing on this, which is gonna speed up the process of the filler primer. So I'll go ahead and hit these while you're finishing that up. We're looking good. So when you're looking at when we're sanding, you can see that we still have a lot of valleys in there. And we're gonna follow that up here in a little bit with some glazing, some Bondo glazing, and that's going to be what fills it in. So we're not really trying to sand this smooth yet. We're just trying to level it out enough that if we put some Bondo on that what happens is we don't have as much work to do on sanding here in a little bit. So this is a multi-step process that a lot of times people get intimidated by because they expect it to be smooth once it's sanded, but it's multi-step. We don't have to have it perfectly smooth when we're getting ready, you know, in our early stages of prep work. So
nice. I think that's definitely what has stopped me in the past.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Just because it's very intimidating.
It is very intimidating.
Especially his helmet. It's a lot.
It is. It is. And there's a lot of hand sanding on this particular helmet, which is, you have that.
Yeah, it is.
You have those helmets that are a lot of hand sanding. So
nice.
All right.
Are there any other spots I should like really hit right now, or?
Nope. I think for the most part you are good. All right. So as I'm working around sanding, there's a lot of just junk up in here that was just from the supports. One of my favorite tools that we have are just sanding sticks.
Nice.
So we're just going to get in there and do our best to kind of knock that down. And I know today we're kind of on a lot bit of a time crunch.
A little bit.
So a lot of times I would probably put a lot more effort into sanding and just working it and working the plastic. But today, because we're in such a huge rush, we're gonna get this as far as we possibly can, as quick as we possibly can. So I'm not gonna go too crazy.
And I also think for a tech cosplay, it kind of works.
Yeah,
to be
if he's
messy
a little rough.
because they're in the middle of war.
That's right.
Track.
That's right. The key is we just want to get out as many print lines as we can. That's the whole idea of working these helmets. And that's the most intimidating part too to most people is they look at it and think, oh, there's so much work, but there is a lot of work to it. But it all pays off in the end when you have that done and have that on your shelf or on your head.
For sure.
It looks great. All right, so what I'm going to do now is we've got everything pretty much sanded with our 80 grit followed up by 220. I know I still have 120 here in my hand. I'm just going to go over the whole helmet real quick. All I'm doing is just trying to remove any loose debris that's on it.
Gotcha.
So that it doesn't interfere when we put our Bondo glazing on. want to try to knock off anything that maybe, sometimes with the electric sanders, a lot of time what will happen is an electric sander creates these tiny little balls of plastic that get stuck on there, and we just don't want those on our project. So that's what I'm doing. This doesn't overly heat, so we're just gonna try to get any balls of plastic off that are stuck. So we're looking pretty good.
Nice.
I am going to take this out real quick, and I'm gonna blow it off with an air compressor just to get all that debris off there. If you'll grab those parts, we'll get that done. So the next part that we're gonna work on, we haven't touched the glasses yet. I'm gonna work on those here in a minute separately because those are gonna have to be pretty darn smooth, and they're very intricate. It's gonna take a lot of hand sanding. But I am going to introduce you to a technique that I absolutely love. And that is taking a little bit of acetone, and we're gonna mix it with our Bondo Glazing and spot putty. Now, the one thing that you do have to remember is if you're doing this in a small space, like a bedroom or something like that, not a good idea. This stuff it's pretty nasty.
Gotcha.
It's not horrible, but it can be pretty nasty. So we're just gonna give a little slosh in there, not much. And then we are going to put some Bondo Glazing in there. Now, the consistency that I usually like to mix it to, I get asked this all the time, how thick do you mix this stuff? I don't know, until it feels right.
Yeah.
Kind of like the consistency of, it's toothpaste right now. And I kind of like it more like yogurt, maybe. You know, like a Yoplait yogurt. So it's a little runny, but it's not a lot runny.
Gotcha.
So we're gonna squirt some down in there. The acetone is just gonna thin it out. I use an old chip brush, and we're gonna get it down in there. Now, if you mix this stuff too thin, all you have to do, it's time consuming, but all you have to do is just let it sit, go work on something else for a little bit, and just keep stirring it occasionally. Like every 5 minutes, walk over and do a quick stir, and eventually you're going to have that in a consistency that, so that's a little bit too runny for me. Not a lot too runny, but a little. What this is gonna do, there's a sweet spot in this stuff that if you get it just right, when you paint this on, you're in essence giving it a massive filler filler primer coat with this stuff that we're gonna sand back a little bit, but it's gonna fill all those print lines up. And you can do as many coats of this as you need to, usually one and done. If you're, especially when you get a little bit of, you know, if you do it a few times, you kind of get the feel of how this works. And I am going to mix this up a little thick today so that you don't have to worry about too many runs, I hope. And if we have a run, it's okay, it's no big deal. We'll just, it's just a little bit more sanding, but we can sand it out.
Gotcha.
So that is pretty thick. It doesn't really look like it, but see it's starting to grab on the end of the paintbrush there. Yeah, it's pretty thick. So kind of the consistency of yogurt. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna teach you this technique real quick. Every time you grab some on your brush, I want you to pat it on the side and just squeeze out a little bit, not a lot, just so you don't have a bunch of runs. You have to be very careful not to get it up inside this. If we do, it's not the end of the world. We can get it out. We're just gonna try to keep your hand above your brush tip, and we're just gonna drop it down, and you're just gonna paint it on there. And it's not gonna come out super smooth. I might be a little thick on this. Once you put it down, don't go over it again. Just leave it for right now because we're gonna do multiple coats.
Okay.
So you're working with that crack again this way. We're gonna come across and work it backwards.
Okay.
So in other words, we don't wanna go towards the crack because it could drop some down in there that we have to clean out later, and we don't wanna do any more cleaning on stuff than we have to.
Gotcha.
So I'm gonna move this out of the way and I'm gonna have you just start on that. If you want a rubber glove, if you think you're gonna get that on your hands, you can put some rubber gloves on, some latex gloves.
I think I'll be okay.
But you can give it a go. No, you should be fine. Just try not to get it on your hands.
Okay.
And you can keep your brush wet as you're doing it. And while you're doing that, I'm going to use the big one here. We're going to get this dome coated real quick. So the more coats we put of this stuff, it's fine. We don't have to, again, if you get too thick in a spot or you get a drip in a spot, it's no big deal. We just have more sanding to do.
Gotcha.
Which sanding, everybody's afraid of sanding, but there's no reason to be. Sanding it's just time. Okay, so we've got ourselves outside now because of the dust. I don't want to get that all in our lungs. So we're just going to, after this Bondo glazing is cured, we're going to give it a quick sand with 240 grit sandpaper. Again, we're not trying to sand it perfectly smooth yet. We're still in the step process. So we're going to hit it all real quick, get our paintbrush marks out of it, and just get it down to where we've got something more manageable to work with. So let's get started on it.
Sounds good.
Again, on the sanding, don't get crazy. We're not trying to remove all the material. So in other words, you know, we're just getting in here and just kind of doing this. We're not going crazy on it. So some of my favorite primer is the Expert Sandable Primer by U-Pol. It's the double coverage. I really like this stuff. It's really thick. And since we're still in the beginning stages of all this, you don't have to be afraid to put it on. You know, you don't want to get crazy, but you don't have to be afraid to really give it a good spray. So, get it flowing here, and we're just going to give it a nice thick coat. This is the point where we're just taking out a lot of scratches, so hopefully we got most of the major sanding done here. It looks like we did. It's starting to look really good. Out of this one, so but yeah, it's looking good. So let's get the helmet up here and we'll give that a spray. All right, so we got our coat of primer on there. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have more coats of primer, but to this stage, after we did the Bondo and the Acetone, we got rid of some print lines. We went out and sanded that off. We still had some print lines, but now that we've got a coat, a nice thick coat of primer on here, we've gotten rid of more print lines. We still have some print lines, but see, our process, that's the most important thing that I can't stress enough to people who want to do builds like this is it's not, you don't just sand everything glass smooth on the first pass. It's a process of, if you follow my steps, you're going to get through them more. And we've got some more work to do on this. There's no doubt about it, but we're getting there. So
yeah.
Hadn't been too bad yet, has it?
No, not at all.
I mean, what have we spent? Maybe 2 hours?
2 hours
of actual work time on this already?
Yeah.
And if you wanted to paint it right now and wear it, it's passable.
Yeah.
It's not perfect, but it's passable. But we're going to do some more work on it. But we're getting there. But unfortunately for today, anyway, our time's kind of gotten to the end after our 2 hours, and we're going to let this primer cure really well, and then hit it with another sanding, and then we're almost done.
Yeah. Nice.
So this has been great.
Yeah.
What do you think so far?
I'm really excited. It already looks way better than it did in the box. So
yeah.
I'm already very much impressed with like what we were able to get done today.
Yeah.
And
in just 2 measly hours.
Yeah. A lot more reasonable than I thought it was going to be for sure. I kind of assumed this would be like the 8-hour mark. Like this is like where we would be, but
no,
maybe by myself without.
Well, and we went pretty fast. And yes, I did do the dome, and you've done kind of more of the more manageable pieces, but you're learning the process too. you know, another hour and you probably would have the dome done as well. It makes it easier when there's two people working on a project.
For sure, yeah.
So, and we've got some stuff to clean up, but so far I'm really happy with it. It's really coming out good. I always want to stress when you're doing your own, and we're not going to be able to see it on camera, so sorry guys, but around these edges in here in this area, I mean, we've got some work to do there.
Yeah.
But it's passable if we did some weathering on it at this point, that all would go away. You wouldn't notice that.
Yeah.
But I always stress on a build like this, the dome, that's what people look at, and the face. Secondary, maybe the back.
Yeah.
But other than that, the main parts that you see, they're very smooth and they're coming along really well.
Nice.
So,
awesome. Thank you so much.
Nice work, right?
Yeah.
We're getting there.
For
All
sure.
Right. So we're back on basically day 2 because we had to let the paint cure. So today, now that this is all cured up, we're going to start sanding the helmet. And this is we're to the point now where most of our layer lines are gone. And this is the point where we're going to really do some work today. And we've got some layer lines here in the back that you can see, and you know, we're just going to clean things up and maybe some in here a little bit. But today we are going to hand sand, and that is a constant hassle and the thing that I do not look forward to, but it's a necessary step in what we do. So we are going to hand sand because it's so smooth as of right now after our initial stuff that we've done to prep it up to this point. We're going to use 400 grit. And I am going to cut us some pieces. Don't be afraid to change your sandpaper as you're going because your sandpaper does get gummed up. I do have, if you check on the channel, I do have a sanding video talking about different types of sandpaper that we use, that I like to use, because the cheap stuff from Walmart, it gums up like crazy, but this is a higher quality 3M brand, I believe, that I use. So it's got a silicate in it. So it's a little better of a material when you're working with this kind of stuff. So we're just gonna start sanding, and let's disassemble this, and we'll just leave the camera running while we do this, and we'll speed up time so you guys don't get bored. But we're not gonna bear down on it when we sand it. We're gonna just do I say a light sanding. Everybody's concept of how light sanding is different, but we're just gonna do a somewhat light sanding. We're not gonna get in there and we don't wanna scratch it up. That's the key. No scratching. We just want to give it a nice, even coat. So I'm going to show you first, and then, I'm not bearing down on it. I'm just coming in. You have to be careful about edges and stuff. You don't want to get into where you're digging too deep in the edges. So we're just sanding away here, and as you can see, there are some dark areas. So those are just some low spots. And we don't necessarily want to get them completely sanded out at this point because we're going to do another coat of primer. But we just want to knock things down as best we can. All right, so that's it. I mean, what do we just hand sanded. Now there's 2 of us, of course, but we hand sanded for 20 minutes maybe, give or take. And we've got it pretty well smoothed out. So no, it looks great. I mean, you're always gonna have some spots like in here that's difficult to get into. I noticed these lower sunken in cheek parts, they're a little difficult. But for the most part, this thing is very smooth, and we're probably going to put a touch of weathering on it too, which is going to hide a lot of stuff. Yeah. So that's always important to not, I always try to tell people, don't kill yourself, doing this, because you're going to see all the flaws.
Yeah.
The average person is going to look at this helmet and go, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And they're going to walk away. They're not going to be, deep diving in.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, you missed a little spot back here. No, they're not going to notice that. But yeah. I think we're ready to blow this off. I use an air compressor to blow all this off because you have to get all this dust and debris off of the helmet in some fashion. So whether you wipe it off with a tack cloth, which is a sticky cloth, or you blow it off, it's very important before you start putting paint down, because if there's dust on that, when you put paint back on top of the dust, one, it won't stick. So if you have to do any masking, you pull tape off of it, it'll pull it right off of the helmet.
Yikes, yeah.
The paint. So we'll get this all cleaned off and then inspect everything. And if it looks good, we might give it one more final coat of primer. And then take it over to the paint booth, and looks like we're gonna be able to start laying some paint down on this bad boy.
Nice.
So, all right, let's get cleaned up.
So we've now sanded our initial priming stage with 400 grit, and it's time to put on, and we've been using filler primer up to this point, and I had done, prior to us sanding, I had done 4 or 5 coats of filler primer, you know, just kind of glob it on and make it wet. What we call wet coats, so they're very thick coats. So now we're going to go back, and I have another filler primer, but it's not nearly as thick. So it's a much thinner primer, and we're going to give this helmet a coat of the thinner primer, and then we're going to do the other parts, the ear caps and the visor, and then we should be close to painting stage. All right, so after much deliberation, we have decided that we are going to do an off-white for the helmet. For the main white part, what appears to be white, we've decided that Tech's armor isn't exactly white. It's kind of an off-white. So we've gone with just, this has got a touch of gray in it. And I will link this in the description if you guys are interested in finding this paint. So it still looks white, but it's a dirty white. So this is what we're going to do the main helmet in, and we're also going to do the ear caps in as the base. So let's get this paint on there.
Wow. So we've been working on this. We've done this in 3 different sessions because of time.
Yes.
And we had to wait for paint to cure and things like that. And today was the big day that we really got some color thrown on this thing. Yeah. It looks great. So what do you think? I mean, the process, we started this and...
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was a learning experience for me, and it wasn't as like difficult as I thought it was going to be. It required like a lot of patience, which is like the hardest part, I think. But for the most part, I mean, like once we got working and like things started looking how they should look, it got like more and more exciting. Like today was the most exciting because it actually looks like Tech's helmet now.
Yes, it does.
Before it was just kind of like, okay, it's a helmet, and now it really does look like his, and it's really cool.
Yeah, no, it turned out wonderfully. Even hand painting these skulls on there that I was a little nervous about because that's really not something I enjoy. But now he is unweathered. We did go through and we used the steel wool trick. So if you guys are watching this and you saw it in the video, we take a piece of 4-0 steel wool and we just rub it onto our paint. And what it does is it just scratches it off and it chips it off and it removes some of the paint. Fortunately, when we did this, we had a very good thick base of our original white, off-white color so that we weren't scraping any of that off. And you do have to let your original base cure before you start using steel wool to knock down the colors. I mean, the scratches in it look phenomenal. They really do. No, you did a great job.
Thank you for all the help.
Well, I'm just here to kind of guide you along and hope for the best. But no, you really took to this quick, and you know, it does help that I've got some experience to throw on you as we're doing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's not that's what the channel is all about. It's not, it is hard to do some of this stuff, but it's not that hard. And the more you fail, the more paint you throw on a helmet, the more print lines are going to disappear. So it's just a long process. But I mean, how many hours do you think we've actually got into this helmet? 8 hours?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Maybe.
Now, we've tag teamed a little bit of this too. When you're working on a piece, I'm working on a piece. But, you know, you could have probably done this in 8 to 12 hours. Yeah. All on your own.
Yeah.
So
probably more 12, but yeah, I see what you mean.
But it's so intimidating to dive into something like this, and 3D printing can be intimidating when you're trying to get print lines out. But we didn't put that much time into it. Yeah. And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah.
So that's the best part. So I can't wait to see your next helmet project.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got a couple ideas, but I don't know what will be next.
Yeah. No, it's great. So, well, to keep this video somewhat short, which I know it's not, I appreciate you guys staying with us as long as you have. Special thanks to Em for coming in. This was her idea. She, you know, we've known each other for a while, several years, and she said, help me build a tech helmet. And I thought, you know, I usually do this stuff alone, kind of not having to worry about explaining things. And I feel like I got to explain some things along the way that I wouldn't normally talk about. Yeah. So it was a huge help that you were here and you asked questions. It was wonderful. And a lot of that footage you probably won't see because we did talk a lot while we were working on stuff, but I tried to keep in some pertinent stuff and that was important. So go check out the Etsy store at cause3d.com. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe. That's what keeps this channel running. That's what allows us to do things like this, that, you know, we've got money in this. So you guys supporting us by subscribing only for free for you actually gets a monetization that we're able to go buy supplies and do projects like this. So again, thank you so much. You got anything last words you want to say?
No, I'm really excited. I'm so happy that it's finally done and not just sitting in a box in my closet anymore. I can actually properly show it off, and all my friends that have been waiting to see it can actually see it outside of it just being like, yeah, they'll do it at some point. Now it's there.
Are you going to wear this to the next con you got coming up?
Probably not to GalaxyCon.
Fair enough.
maybe PopCon in May.
Yeah.
Maybe that would be enough time to get all the other pieces of his armor done.
Yeah. Now, D. Bradley Baker was the one that voiced the all the clones in the Clone Wars, and I'm not as familiar with the Bad Batch. I assume he did.
Yes,
the Bad
he did.
Batch.
He did all of them.
I think D needs to sign it. Right
That would
across
be
the back
really
at some
cool.
point. Dude's super cool. I've got to meet him a couple of times. Phenomenal man.
Yeah, I met him
Really
at Celebration when actually, spoiler alert, like right after Tech had died, and I told him Tech was my favorite, and he went, "Oh, I'm so sorry,"
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yeah, thanks."
Yeah, he's invested in all the single clones
he
in
really
the show.
is.
So
That's
it's wonderful.
great.
Yeah, it is. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and make sure you hit that like and subscribe, and we'll see what comes up next.
Yeah.
I'll see you in the next video. Em might see you in a very future video.
That'd be fun.
Who knows? We've been talking. So we'll catch you in the next video.